Hey guys, have you ever heard that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? Yeah, sounds great, but it's not true. Today we're wrapping up our series, Pro Tip, where we've been looking at wisdom from the book of Proverbs. We've talked a lot about how wisdom is the one thing that can make you better at everything. So here's a piece of wisdom for you today. Words matter. Have you ever started off a sentence with, you would look better if, and then later regretted it? Or on the flip side, even given a compliment to someone who later said it changed their entire day. Again, words matter. How many of you have ever been accused of using words to hurt others? Maybe it felt really good at the time, but it wasn't until later in the day where you thought, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. Or how many of you have ever, known what it feels like to say something without thinking, only to immediately regret it? Maybe you blurted out your opinion about something and then didn't realize that the person you were talking about was right behind you. And guys, if I am honest with you, this is where I get into trouble a lot. Not like in trouble, but where I constantly trip up and mess up and say things I later regret. Things that, don't reflect that I'm a follower of Jesus. Things that I later have to apologize for, make amends, and own up to my actions. So when I was a kid, before I learned how to use self-control in how I speak, I used to use my words like daggers. You see, I have two older brothers, Josh and Jordan, and as kids, they would constantly pick on me, tease me, call me names, and just get on my nerves. And as the younger sister, I stood no chance getting back at them physically. You see, they were 2 and 5 years older than me. But instead, I would get at them with my words. And so one day, my brother Josh, I caught him getting into my Barbies. And so he had pulled off all of their clothes and their accessories and popped off their heads and scattered them. And oh my gosh, when I saw that, I was so livid, so mad at Josh. So back in second grade, I was a screamer. And so I just screamed at the top of my lungs. And I remember yelling as loud as I could, I hate Josh! I wish he was dead! And my mom, was like, Rachel, what is going on? Yeah, that wasn't my best moment. Well, I'm glad to say 20 years later, me and Josh have a much better relationship. But that's really an area of my life I've had to really work on, to not just throw around mean and hateful words. I've learned that my words can really have damaging impact. And maybe some of you can relate to me, because where our words can really trip us up is in how we handle conflict. Everyone handles conflict differently. Some people yell, some get quiet, some get defensive and blame others, some subtweet, and some turn to private DMs to gossip. But no matter what you do in conflict, words are in the spotlight. So, here's the truth. Today we're going to dive into scripture and look at the book of Proverbs to see what it has to say. There's a lot of wisdom that it gives us when it comes to how we use our words and the impact that they make. So looking in Proverbs 15:1, it says in the NLT, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. Or in the NIV version, it says it this way, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So like many verses in Proverbs, this one is communicating two different choices, opposites even. In this case, it's the choice we have when it comes to how we use our words. So let's break it down. We're actually going to start with the second half of the verse, or the second choice, where it says a harsh word stirs up anger. At this point, it would be helpful to define what a harsh word is. I'd say harsh words are unpleasant words, usually spoken with an angry tone, with the intention of shutting down the conversation, proving a point, or hurting someone. If you've recently been in trouble or in an argument or disagreement, you probably know what I'm talking about. You felt that urge to say something sarcastic or rude or disrespectful. Any of those things qualify as harsh words that Proverbs is referring to. And in case you think you're off the hook because you don't speak that kind of way out loud, it definitely counts with our written words too. Now let's go back to the first part of that proverb to see a different choice when it comes to using our words. A gentle answer turns away wrath. You see, gentle words make it harder to be mad. Jesus was actually a great example of this. There were certainly times when Jesus used some harsh language to call out religious leaders who were wrong and adding extra unnecessary rules. But there are also examples of Jesus applying the heart behind this proverb. One was from Jesus' closest friend, John. In John chapter 8, he writes about religious leaders who were trying to con Jesus into making a statement that would allow them to either stone a woman or take Jesus to court. And stoning is really just throwing rocks at someone until they die. Well, what did Jesus do here? So in this intense moment, these guys are super angry. He stoops down and he writes in the dirt. And eventually he says something to people that was so important. He says to this angry leaders, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." He's basically saying, I'll let you condemn her wrongdoing if you are perfect. That's intense. So what happens to that vengeful crowd? They literally turn and walk away. In the same way that Jesus' response turned away an angry crowd, your words can diffuse the situation when it comes to someone's anger with you. Your gentle words can literally turn away their anger. Think about it. Whether it's your mom, your brother, someone you're fighting with, or someone who's just been plain mean to you, when you can speak calmly and politely to them, it's really hard for them to keep escalating the argument. If they say something awful and you respond with gentleness, it's really awkward for them to keep coming at you. So here's a pro tip for you. Politeness and gentleness is not a sign of timidity, but of spiritual maturity. That's so important, guys, that I'm going to say it again. Politeness and gentleness is not a sign of timidity, but of spiritual maturity. When it comes to dealing with conflict and arguments, wisdom says, technically, we have two choices. We can respond with gentle words or harsh words. And if we want to have tension in our relationship, we can choose harsh words. But here's what wisdom teaches us. If you want to be heard, use gentle words. Gentleness is not weakness, but rather power under control. Just like how Jesus responded to those angry religious leaders, it's practicing wisdom instead of reacting emotionally. We see this same idea in James 1:19. Jesus tells us, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. And the next verse says, human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. We all know this to be true, right? When we let ourselves get boiling with anger, we tend not to react in a way that honors God. So James, in this verse, is giving us advice on how to be proactive instead of reactive. We need to let our response be with our ears first and not with our tongue. Now, is that normal and natural to do? No, it's kind of against our human nature, but that's why we need to put into practice really what Jesus is saying here. So I encourage you guys in your conversations when you're speaking to others, and also in social media interactions and in text conversations, when you're tempted to hit maybe a quick reply, slow down first and reconsider how you can use gentle words. You have the power to impact people positively or negatively. Your words have more power and influence over a situation than you think. And if you want to keep your influence with your friends, family, other adults, use gentle words. In just a minute, you're going to turn to your home group to start your discussion. And I want you to be thinking about this. How are you currently using the power of your words? I hope you guys are at a place where you feel like you can be real and honest with each other. It does no good to wear a mask and act like everything's fine, that we have it all together, that we haven't recently made mistakes in this area, that we don't struggle with it regularly. Instead, guys, I hope you choose to be vulnerable in your home group. Lean into community to really pray for each other, be real, keep each other accountable to growing and being more like Jesus. If you want to go a step further to really be challenged, maybe you'll consider doing the deep dive today, to dive further into Proverbs, where it talks about a deadly weapon, a fire, and rumors. Whew, that's some big stuff. Thank you guys for listening today. And before you start your discussion, here's some things from Pastor Cody that you don't want to miss.
What's up, home groups? Thanks for joining us today. As always, we have some announcements for you guys. First is that Camp Eagle registration is open. And so if you're looking for a super fun way to kick off your summer, think about joining us in Rock Springs, Texas from June 6th to the 10th. Registration fills up fast, especially as we get closer to the date. And so don't delay, secure your spot today. Next, a reminder for the student section and the worship center is always available to you guys on Sunday morning. So come kick it with us as we worship and learn about God every single week. Finally, block party next week. Come celebrate a birthday with us as we all rock in the rail with a birthday bash. There's going to be pizza, cake, so much of that fun that we remember as being a kid that made you the coolest kid who had all of these things at their birthday party. And so invite a friend, and we can't wait to see you there. Thanks again for being here. Enjoy your group, and we'll see you next week at Block Party.
Before you start your discussion today, here's a word from Pastor Cody.
Word.